In this demonstration, we'll look at various tasks for managing hardware devices. Most devices are managed by going to Device Manager. Devices are organized by type. For example, here's my display adapter. I can right-click on the device and choose Properties and see information about the device. So for instance, in this case, the device is working properly. On the Drivers tab, I can see information about the driver that's currently used by the device. The Driver's Detail button shows me information about all of the files that are part of the driver for this device. Devices that have a regular icon identify devices that are correctly installed and are functioning on my system. On this computer, I have a couple of devices that have an exclamation mark on the device icon. I can right-click the device and choose the properties to get more information about the problem. In this case, the device is not configured correctly because there is no driver selected for the device. In fact, the icon here shows a little question mark. Windows has detected the name of the device, but does not quite yet know all the information it needs to know about the device to configure it. To reinstall the drivers, I can click Reinstall Driver, and then choose the action to take, or I could go to the Driver tab and choose Update Driver for the same options. Let's start by searching automatically for updated driver software. Notice that right now my computer is searching online for the drivers for this device. It is searching the Windows Update website to locate drivers that are compatible with the device. And in this case, Windows was not able to locate any drivers that matched this device. Let's go back and let's do Update Driver again, but instead browse my computer for the driver software. And then I can point it to the location of the driver files that I have downloaded previously. And then when I choose Next, it will install the software. In this case, the driver is unsigned, which I will install anyway. And now the driver has installed successfully. Let me go back and close the properties, and now you can notice that the icon for the device has changed to a regular icon. The device is ready to be used. If I scroll down, there's another device that has an exclamation mark. Let me check the properties to see what its problem is. And in this case, the device has been prepared for safe removal, meaning that the device is ready to be unplugged and that it can't currently be used by Windows. It says to fix the problem, unplug the device and then plug it in again. So let's cancel that and let's try that. Let's unplug the device. It's removed automatically. And then I will plug the device back in, and Device Manager will automatically detect the device and configure it appropriately. Another thing you can do with a device is to disable the device. Let's go up here, for instance, to one of my ports. And I have a COM port, a serial port in my computer that I can use. I can't really remove the device because it's a permanent part of my motherboard. But one thing I can do is to disable the device. When the device is disabled, it stops working and the computer can't use it. I'll say yes. Notice now how the icon has changed to a down arrow. This indicates that the device is there but has been turned off within Device Manager. If you were working on Windows XP, the device icon would have a red X over it to indicate that it has been disabled. Disabling a device prevents it from being used, even though it may be present on the system. You would typically disable devices that cannot physically be removed from your computer. For example, if your modem does not work properly, you could disable the built-in modem and then install an external modem. Disabling the device keeps it from being used. For devices that can be removed, such as this scanner, you would typically simply remove the device without disabling it. So for instance, when I remove the device, it is removed from Device Manager, and when I insert the device again, it is automatically detected and configured. This would be analogous to turning the device on and off, or perhaps disconnecting it. I don't want to disable the device because I still want to be able to use it when I reinsert it. Now let's say that I know that I'm not going to use this scanner again. I could uninstall the device. If I don't delete the software, the driver would still remain, and the next time you insert the scanner, it will be detected and configured automatically. If I'm sure that I won't use the scanner again, I could tell Windows to delete the driver software from the system. When I delete the device along with the driver software, and then when I insert the device again, I would have to reinstall the drivers before the device could be used. The default view within Device Manager is to show each device by category. So for disk drives, I have several devices that are of that type. If I want to see the hardware resources used by a device, I could right-click the device and choose Properties. The Resources tab shows me the hardware resources used by this device: memory range, I/O range, and IRQs. And it will also show me whether there are any conflicts with other devices in my system. By default, plug-and-play devices are configured to automatically be configured by Windows for the hardware resources that they will use. In fact, on computers today, you will rarely, if ever, need to change the hardware resources used by a device. If I look at another device, for example this USB device, and look at its properties, you'll see that there are no resources that are being used by this device. That's because all USB devices share the same resources. Another thing I can do is go to the View menu and choose to show resources by type or connection. In this case, I'll choose Resources by Type. And now I can see all of the DMA addresses, input-output ranges, IRQs, and memory addresses used by devices on the system. This might be helpful, for instance, when I want to see what device might be using a specific IRQ number. For example, I can see that IRQ 14 is being used by the IDE channel. Another tool that I can use to see information about my devices is MS-Info-32. The first section shows me hardware resources. So for instance, I can see the DMA addresses, the I/O addresses, the IRQ, and the memory addresses. The conflicts section shows me devices that might be using resources that are trying to be used by other devices. In this case, for instance, I have 3 separate devices using IRQ 16. Be aware that this includes conflicts and also cases where simple sharing is taking place. In this case, I have 3 devices that are sharing this single IRQ, but there is not a conflict and everything is working properly. Another thing I can do to see hardware is to choose the components, and then I can view hardware components by type. For example, serial ports, and I can see information about that device. I can check my modems and my network adapters. This is similar information to what you might see in Device Manager by looking at the properties for a device, but it's just in a different format and using a different tool. So to summarize, you manage most devices on your system using Device Manager. You can view the resources or you can view the device types. Typically, you'll look at the device types to manage those devices. You would disable devices that you don't want to work, or you uninstall devices that no longer exist in your system. You can view the properties of the device to see information about the device, such as information about the driver. And you can also use MS-Info-32 to see information about devices and hardware resources used by those devices. In addition to the tools we've covered so far, you should also be aware of one additional method for managing devices that is available in Windows 7. On the Start menu, I can choose Devices and Printers. In Devices and Printers, my computer is represented by one icon. Additional connected peripheral devices are each represented by an icon. So for instance, I have my keyboard, my mouse, a monitor or 2, and additional devices that are connected to my computer. If I right-click a device, I can view properties for that device. The properties that I view here shows me information about the device. And on the Hardware tab, I can view additional properties, which accesses the properties that are available from within Device Manager. So for instance, I can view the driver and update, roll back, or disable the driver for the device. If I were to look at the properties for my computer is actually made up of multiple internal devices. If I view the Hardware tab, I can see the list of all of the devices inside of my computer from the properties for my computer. So to view my external devices, I would simply look at the device within the Devices and Printers folder. To view internal devices, I view the properties of my computer, and on the Hardware tab, I can see the list of the devices that are internal to the computer. Notice that when I right-click on a device, the menu changes with settings that are specific to that device. So, for example, for the monitor, I can choose my display settings. For the keyboard, notice that I have keyboard settings and regional and language settings. For my Bluetooth device, notice that I have many settings that I can configure for this device. So new in Windows 7, I have the Devices and Printers folder, which gives me one place to go to manage my devices. I can still use Device Manager. However, this gives me a different view and a different way of managing my devices in Windows 7.